The sound came before the crack. Metal under stress has its own scream. It is not loud. It is low and sharp, like a warning only engineers and dead men hear. I heard it under my boots while wet concrete rushed through the pump lines. "Stop the pour," I said. I did not yell. There was no point. In a hollow concrete shell, shouting just turned into echo. Theo, the foreman, leaned over the gantry with the radio in his hand. "Knox, we are 3 trucks in. Fisher is going to lose his mind if we halt the schedule." "Fisher can lose his mind," I said, walking toward the north retaining wall, "or he can lose Pillar 4. His choice." I stripped off one glove and pressed my bare palm to the cold concrete. The surface looked fine, but under my hand I felt it. A low vibration. A bad one. "There is a void in the rebar cage," I said. "The mix is too wet. The aggregate is shifting. Kill it, Theo." Theo stared for 2 seconds, then hit the switch. The pumps hissed into silence. Trucks idled. The site went quiet in a heavy way, full of diesel fumes and wet dust. That was when the elevator cage rattled open and the problem walked in. Luciana Torres did not wear a hard hat like a visitor. She wore it like she had built it herself. Even in a neon safety vest and steel-toe boots, she looked like she cost more than the whole site. She did not slow down as she crossed the grated floor. "Green," she said. Her voice was low and smooth, but ice cold. "Why is my site silent?" "Silence costs me $4,000 a minute." "Resonance issue on Pillar 4, I said, keeping my eyes on the laser level 1 was setting up. "The mix is separating. If we keep pouring, the wall fails in 6 hours. "Fisher says the mix is standard," she said. "Fisher is a salesman," I answered. "I am an engineer." I finally looked at her. Dark eyes, sharp, tired. She was 38 and the director of the whole SkyPoint retrofit. I was 29 and just the structural consultant they had dragged in when things started cracking. "If you are wrong," she said, crossing her arms, "I miss my milestone. The board reviews my contract on Friday. Fisher takes my chair. Quote, I am not wrong." She stepped closer. I caught the faint scent under the dust and rain. Sandalwood, clean and sharp. "You are gambling my career on a vibration, Knox," she said. "I am gambling your career on physics," I said. I checked the readout on the scanner. The stress line was there, hair thin but real. "Tell you what," I said. "We run a sonic test. If I am wrong, I resign. You blame the delay on the arrogant consultant and let Fisher play hero." Her eyebrows lifted a little. "And if you are right..." She moved in until the shadow from her hard hat cut across my hands. The men around us went quiet. "If I am right," I said, tapping the laser screen, "you have to marry me." It came out flat, like I was stating a formula. Theo choked on his coffee. Someone swore softly. Luciana did not blush. She did not laugh. She just tilted her head and locked her eyes on mine. The force in that look almost stole my breath. "Fine," she said, "but do not regret it when I accept." Then she turned to Theo. "Run the test." The micro hook in my chest was not the bet. It was the fact that for the first time in 6 weeks, she had actually looked at me and seen me. The sonic test took an hour. It showed a 90% structural void. We would have had a failure by morning if we had kept pouring. I was right. I was always right about concrete. People were harder. By the time I walked into the trailer office, the bet was already site legend. Guys slapped me on the back. Someone called me Mr. Torres as a joke. I ignored them. My focus was on the woman behind the glass, at the far end of the trailer. Luciana was on the phone. I could see the tension in her shoulders and the small circle her fingers made at her temple. I had learned that tell. She only did that when she was cornered. "It is a minor setback, Fisher," she said. "We caught it. That is what matters. No, I do not care what the audit says. The timeline holds." She hung up and dropped her head into her hands for 2 seconds, then straightened as if she remembered there was glass. I knocked on the doorframe. She looked up, the boss mask snapping back into place. The test confirmed it. "You saved us a lawsuit, Green. Do not expect a parade." "I do not want a parade," I said, leaning on the frame. "I want to know why Fisher ordered the cheap mix." "Cost cutting," she said, clicking her pen fast. He authorized it while I was in New York. He is trying to trigger the penalty clause. 3 delays, and the project goes under review. Today was delay number 2. So he is sabotaging his own project to sink you, I said. Welcome to the executive floor, she said. It is darker up here. She studied me for a second. You are 29. You have a degree from MIT. You could work anywhere that does not have crumbling walls and corporate wars. Why are you here? I like fixing things, I said. And I hate seeing good work ruined by bad management. Is that what I am? She asked. Bad management? No, I said. You are the only thing holding this building up. The concrete is just decoration. She blinked. A faint flush rose on her neck above the collar of her blouse. Get back to work, Green, she said. You have a retaining wall to redesign. Yes, ma'am. Quote. I turned to go. The bet, she said, softer. It was a joke, right? I paused. The sonic test was not, I said. I left her with that and walked back out into the cold air. But Fisher was no longer the only variable in my head. 2 days later, the real chaos hit. I was packing up my gear at 6 in the evening when my phone buzzed. It was Amy, her assistant. Knox, are you still on site? She asked. Her voice was thin with panic. Yeah. What is wrong? The city inspector moved the permit hearing to tomorrow morning at 8, she said, in Springfield. Springfield was a 3-hour drive. Okay, I said. So Luciana drives down tonight. She cannot, Amy said. Her car is in the shop. Fisher took the company cars for a client dinner. The trains are down for maintenance. She is trying to book a ride share, but nobody will drive that far in this storm. Knox, if she misses this hearing, it is delay number 3. Tell her to wait in the lobby, I said. Do not let her leave. I grabbed my keys. My truck was an old Land Rover, beat up but solid. It handled storms better than most people. When I pulled up, rain was coming down in sheets. Luciana stood under the building awning in a thin coat, hair plastered to her cheeks, phone in her hand. She looked smaller than I had ever seen her. I rolled down the window. Get in, I said. She narrowed her eyes. Knox, I need a ride to the train station. Trains are down, I said. I am driving you to Springfield. She hesitated. The rain hit harder. Her hand shook once on the strap of her bag. I hate relying on anyone, she muttered. I know, I said, turning the heat up. But unless you want Fisher to present the permit without you, get in the truck. She got in. The cab filled with the scent of wet wool and sandalwood and stress. Her hands were pale on the seatbelt. You did not have to do this, she said quietly as I pulled away from the curb. I am protecting my investment, I said, eyes on the road. I cannot marry a woman who is unemployed. She let out a short, shocked laugh. It was the first real one I had heard from her. You are impossible, she said. I am structural, I answered. We hold up under pressure. Outside, the storm swallowed the highway. Inside, it was just her and me in the dark, heading toward a fight at 8 in the morning, and a hotel clerk who was about to say the 4 words that changed everything. 1 room left, he said. 1 room left, the clerk said. Double queen. Luciana stood beside me at the hotel counter, coat still damp from the storm. Her hair was pulled back in a low knot, strands already escaping. She looked exhausted, but her posture stayed straight. She glanced at me, then at the clerk. We will take it, she said. We are colleagues. It is fine. It was not fine. The room was small. 2 beds, 1 nightstand, 1 narrow space between them. A tiny table with 2 chairs. Beige carpet, buzzing heater, thin curtains. Luciana went into the bathroom with a small overnight bag. I sat on the edge of my bed and opened my tablet, trying to focus on the permit file instead of the sound of running water. When she came out, my brain stalled for a second. She was in a plain t-shirt and dark yoga pants, no heels, no blazer, no armor. Her hair was down, damp, falling in softer waves over her shoulders. She looked younger and somehow more dangerous at the same time. She sat on the other bed and tucked 1 leg under herself. About tomorrow, she said. The inspector, Chavez, he does not like me. Because you are a woman, I asked. Because I am a woman who tells him he is wrong, she said with a tired half smile. Fisher usually handles permit hearings. Chavez expects him, not me. Chavez cares about numbers, I said, not handshakes. I reworked the structural addendum on the drive. The load path is clean now. I handed her the tablet. She scrolled through the calculations. Her eyes widened. You redid the wind shear analysis, she said. Fisher's numbers were off by 6%. If Chavez had seen this, he would have failed us. I do not like relying on luck, I said. She set the tablet down and looked at me. Really looked. You did this on your own time, she said. You did not bill the hours. I do not do half work, I said. Not on a project people will stand in. Quote, Why are you really helping me, Knox? She asked, voice quieter. It is not just pride. You could go to another firm tomorrow and leave this mess behind. I am not fighting your battles, I said. I am giving you the tools. You are the one who has to win. Her gaze held mine. The heater hummed. Rain hit the window in thin streaks. You are different from the men I am used to, she whispered. I know, I said. The room felt smaller. I pushed up from the bed and walked to the window, needing distance before I did something stupid. Outside, the parking lot glowed under yellow lights. Get some sleep, I said. We have a war in the morning. I did not sleep much. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft sound of her breathing on the other bed and trying to remember that I was her engineer, not her solution. The hearing was a fight, but it was her fight. Chavez tried to cut her off 3 times. She did not raise her voice. She just used mine. My numbers. My redesign. She walked him through the new load path and the corrected shear values. When he tried to nitpick, she pinned him with codes and clauses he had not expected her to know. By the end, Chavez sighed, signed the permit, and pushed the papers back like he wanted her out of his office. Approved, he said. Do not make me regret it. Do not worry, she said. We will not. Outside, she leaned against my truck and let her head rest back for 2 seconds, eyes closed. You were right, she said. I usually am, I said. She opened one eye and looked at me. About the math, she said. Not about the marriage bet. We will see, I said. She snorted, got in the truck, and we drove back to Chicago in a silence that felt less like distance and more like team. The dynamic had shifted. 2 nights later, I showed up at her office with 2 tickets in my hand. I am not going back to the office, she said into her phone as we walked out of the parking garage. If I stare at one more spreadsheet, I will start throwing chairs. Good, I said. You are coming with me. She hung up and frowned at the slips of paper between my fingers. What is this? Quote. Baseball, I said. Upper bowl, third base line. No suits, no board, 90 minutes where nobody can corner you. Her eyes went from the tickets to my face. You planned this, she said. I planned not to let you go home and sit alone with a bottle of wine and a migraine, I said. For a second, the director mask fell. A real smile tugged at her mouth. Fine, she said. But if anyone recognizes me, I will deny I know you. They will not, I said. And if they do, I will handle it. She showed up at the gate in jeans, a fitted red tank top, and a light jacket. Her hair was loose. She looked like a woman, not a director. A vendor at the entrance tried to upsell her with a big grin that stayed on her a little too long. Her shoulders tightened. We are good, I said calmly, stepping half a step between them, tickets already out. The vendor backed off. We walked in. Our seats were high and a little cold, but the view was clean. The field was bright under the lights. People shouted, laughed, argued with umpires. None of it mattered outside the stadium. Luciana sat down and exhaled. This is strangely calming, she said. Because the scoreboard does not lie, I answered, and nobody here cares about quarterly reports. She glanced sideways at me. You keep buying me peace like this, Knox, and I might start relying on you. Do not threaten me with a good time, I said. She laughed, a real one. Then she went quiet as the first pitch snapped into the catcher's glove. At some point, her fingers brushed my wrist. It was quick, like she was just adjusting her jacket, but she did not pull away when my hand turned and covered hers. We did not talk about the bet that night. We did not need to. The way she leaned into me when the crowd surged said enough. After that, a routine formed. In the mornings, I moved my work to the big table in her office. The light was better. That was my excuse. At 6:30 a.m., I brought 2 coffees. Black for me. Oat milk latte with 2 pumps of vanilla for her. The first time, she frowned. "I did not order this," she said. "I was getting one," I said. "Figured you needed fuel." She took a sip. Her shoulders dropped a little. "You remember the oat milk," she said. "I pay attention to details," I said. "It is my job." "Thank you, Knox," she said quietly. It became normal. Coffee, blueprints, meetings. My pencil marks on her conference table. Her handwriting on my prints. Late one night, the office was empty except for us. The city lights poured through the windows. Plans and numbers were spread across the table. "My ex-husband hated this," she said, tracing a conduit line on a drawing with her thumb. "The late nights. The obsession. He used to say, I was married to the concrete." "What did you say?" I asked. "Nothing," she said. "I tried to finish earlier, come home tired." Pretend I did not care. She laughed once. It did not reach her eyes. "He wanted a wife who made dinner and asked about his day," she said. Not one who argued about load values. I set my pen down. "You do not shrink a structure that is built to carry heavy loads," I said. "You reinforce it." She stopped tracing the drawing, her eyes lifted to mine. "You are 29 going on 80, she murmured. "Do you want a wife who bakes?" I held her gaze. The distance between us was small. I could see a faint ring mark on her finger where a band used to sit. "I want a partner," I said. My voice came out lower than I meant. "Someone who knows how to build with me. Someone who does not crack when things get hard." I leaned in just a little, enough that I was in her space but not trapping her. A strand of her hair had fallen into her face. I reached up and tucked it behind her ear. My fingers brushed her jaw. Her skin was warm. She sucked in a small breath. "Knox," she whispered. The door swung open. "Luciana, we have a problem," Fisher said. I pulled my hand back so fast my chair scraped. Fisher stood there in an expensive suit and smug face. "The steel supplier is claiming non-payment," he said. "They are halting the shipment for the Spire." Luciana straightened. "That is not possible. We sent the wire on Monday." Fisher smiled like a shark. "The contract says payment must be received within 30 days, he said. "The bank held the wire for verification. We missed the window by 4 hours." His eyes flicked to me, then back to her, and per Clause 42, a supplier default of this size triggers an automatic leadership review by the board, he said. "They will have to ask for your resignation." The room went very still. The storm we had driven through was nothing compared to the one that had just opened above her head. The next morning, Luciana called an emergency meeting. We were in the glass conference room on the 12th floor. The city was gray outside. On the table sat a stack of contracts, a pot of burned coffee, and the mood of a funeral. "We paid the supplier," she said, pacing at the head of the table. "Accounting sent the wire on Monday." Fisher sat halfway down, relaxed in his chair. He slid a printed contract across the table with 2 fingers. "The contract specifies that payment must be received within 30 days, he said. "Not sent. The bank held the wire for verification. We missed the window. That is unfortunate." His fake sympathy almost made my teeth crack. "And per Clause 42, which you signed, Luciana," he went on, "a supplier default like this triggers an automatic leadership review by the board." Amy looked sick. The project manager stared at the table. No one met Luciana's eyes. She picked up the contract and scanned the clause. Her face went a shade paler. "If the steel is delayed, we miss the dry-in date," she said slowly. "The penalty is $2 million. The firm cannot eat that." "The board will ask for your resignation," Fisher said. He even managed to sound gentle, to save face with the client. I felt anger burn through the tiredness in my bones. "You held the wire," I said. His gaze flicked to me. "Excuse me?" "You are on the finance committee," I said, keeping my voice even. "You flagged the wire for verification." "I saw the log when I was in accounting yesterday." "That is a serious accusation," he said. It is not an accusation, I said. It is a fact. You used the hold rule to make sure the money arrived late. Fisher stood. This is ridiculous. I am not staying here to be insulted. Quote. He picked up his papers and walked out. His cologne lingered in the room like smoke. The door closed. The silence he left behind was heavy. Luciana sat down slowly. The chair seemed to catch her more than she sat in it. He got me, she said in a low voice. I did not check the wire status. I trusted the system. I walked to her side of the table and put both hands flat on the wood. Stop, I said. She looked up, surprised. Stop accepting defeat, I said. He played a paperwork trick. We can play a physics trick. What are you talking about? She asked. We do not need the new steel for the spire yet, I said. I can redesign the load path and use the existing stock for the lower truss. It buys us 3 days. Enough time for the payment to clear and the shipment to arrive without a delay flag. Her eyes widened. That would require a complete re-engineering of the truss system, she said, in 24 hours. I can do it, I said. Knox, that is weeks of work, she said. I can do it, I repeated. But I need you to stall the board. Keep Fisher busy. Do not let him know we have a workaround. She stood too. The fire was back in her eyes. You would do that for me, she asked. I told you, I said. I am protecting my investment. I turned to go. I had already started planning the calculations in my head. It would be tight and it would hurt, but it was possible. Knox, she said. I stopped in the doorway. She crossed the room in 3 quick steps. She grabbed my jacket with both hands and pulled me down to her. She kissed me. It was not careful. It was not soft. It was fierce and angry and full of every sleepless night and every time she had been pushed to the edge. For half a second, I froze. Then my hands found her waist and pulled her closer. She fit against me like she had always been meant to stand in that space. We broke apart, breathing hard. Win this, she whispered. Win the bet. Count on it, I said. I worked for 36 hours. I lived on black coffee, protein bars, and stubbornness. I slept in 20-minute bursts on a folding chair in the site office. By 4 in the morning on Thursday, the new truss design was done. The load path held. The safety margin was tight but clean. I called Theo. Start fabricating, I rasped. Use the existing stock. Label it as temporary bracing if anyone asks. You sure this works? He asked. It works, I said. Send me video of the assembly. When I ended the call, I almost dropped my phone from fatigue. But the hardest part was not the math. It was what came next. Friday morning, the board meeting. I stood in the hallway outside the big oak door, unshaven, wearing the same shirt as yesterday. The air smelled like carpet cleaner and old power. Fisher came out during a break and saw me. You look terrible green, he said. You look like a lawsuit, I said. He smiled. You think your little redesign changes anything? He asked. He pulled out his phone and turned the screen toward me. On it was a photo from Springfield. Taken through the half-open hotel room door. Luciana sitting on one bed in her t-shirt, me on the other, both looking at the tablet between us. Nothing happened in the picture, but it did not matter. The caption he had typed under it said enough. Director Torres in a compromising position with her young consultant, he read, covering up her mistakes. My stomach turned. Where did you get that? I asked. Hotels have cameras, Knox, he said lightly. And friends. If you present your redesign to the board, I send this to them and to the client. Ethics violation. She is done. If you stay quiet, let the delay fall where it may, she resigns with some dignity and I take the job. Everybody wins. Except the building, I said. He shrugged. We can always patch concrete. Reputations are harder. Think about it. He walked away. I stood there with my heart pounding and the folder with my redesign suddenly feeling like a weapon that could hurt the wrong person. Luciana came out of the boardroom a few minutes later. Her eyes were tired but hopeful. They are asking for a plan, she said. Is the redesign ready? I looked at her, at the faint lines at the corners of her eyes, at the career she had built over 20 years, at the way she had kissed me like I was the first person to stand with her, not behind her. Fear did the talking. It is not ready, I said. She blinked. What? The numbers did not hold. I lied. The trust would be too weak. I could not sign off on it. I watched the hope drain from her face. "Oh," she said softly, "I see." "Luciana," I started, "listen to me. Fisher has leverage. If he thinks we tried to work around him, he will go nuclear. This way, you can resign without a scandal. You keep your name clean. You can start somewhere else." "I trusted you," she said. Her voice did not rise, but it cut anyway. "You said you could fix it. You gave me hope." Guilt hit me like a physical thing. "Go home, Knox," she said. "I will handle the resignation." She turned and went back into the boardroom. The door closed behind her with a soft click that felt final. I stood there, staring at the wood grain, hating myself. She hated relying on anyone. She had trusted me once. I had just proved every fear she had ever had about depending on someone. I looked down at the folder in my hand, at the numbers that could save the project and her job. I thought about the photo on Fisher's phone, about the story he wanted to write over her name. Then I heard her voice in my head. "I am done letting other people decide what I am allowed to want." She did not need me to protect her from rumors. She needed the truth so she could fight. Fisher was banking on my silence. I pulled my phone out and texted Theo. "Send the fabrication video to Luciana's email. Now." Then I pushed open the boardroom door and walked in. The room went silent. Luciana stood at the head of the table, shoulders set. The board members sat in a long row. Fisher lounged near the end, looking satisfied. "I'm sorry, gentlemen," Luciana was saying. "The delay is unavoidable. I take full response." "Objection," I said. Every head turned toward me. The chairman frowned. "And you are?" "Knox Green," I said. "Structural lead on SkyPoint." Fisher pushed his chair back. "This is highly irregular," he said. "We are in the middle of a leadership discussion." Quote, "With respect," I said, walking to the front, "you are in the middle of handing a firing squad a blindfold. You should at least let them see the target." I did not look at Fisher. I looked at Luciana. Her eyes were sharp and confused. She still thought I had nothing. That was on me. I set my folder on the table and plugged my tablet into the screen at the end of the room. "I lied to you," I said to her, and only her. "The numbers hold. The redesign works." "Excuse me," the chairman said. "Mr. Green," another board member said, "this is not the place." "Fisher threatened to release a photo of us from a hotel in Springfield," I said. I kept my voice level. "He said if I presented my redesign, he would use it to claim an ethics violation and destroy Luciana's reputation. If I stayed quiet, he would let her resign quietly." Gasps moved around the table. Chairs creaked. Fisher stood. "This is slander," he said. His face had gone red. "The boy is lying to cover his own mistakes." I turned my tablet so they could see the first slide. The trust diagram lit up on the large screen. Clean lines. New load path. Short notes in the margin. "The truss redesign uses existing steel stock for the lower sections," I said. "It buys us 3 days of schedule without violating any safety codes. The fabrication is already underway. You have a video in your email right now showing the assembly." I looked at Luciana. "I should have told you," I said, "instead of trying to decide for you what you could handle." Her throat moved as she swallowed. Her hand closed into a fist at her side. "The building does not have to miss the deadline," I said to the board, "and this firm does not have to lose $2 million. I stepped back. "Miss Doris can walk you through the details." For a few seconds, nobody spoke. Then Luciana moved. She walked to the end of the table and took the clicker from my hand. Her fingers brushed my knuckles. It was a small touch, but I felt the charge of it all the way up my arm. "Gentlemen," she said. Her voice was calm again. "You have just seen the solution to the steel delay. This truss redesign was done in 36 hours. It uses on-site materials, maintains safety margins, and keeps SkyPoint on schedule." She clicked to the next slide. The video of Theo's crew building the new frame played on screen. "This is why you hired me," she said. "Not to avoid problems, but to solve them before they bury you." She let that sit, then looked down the table at Fisher. "And about Mr. Lewis," she said. Her tone changed. It got colder. "You should see the finance logs." She tapped her tablet. A new document came up. Wire transfer records, timestamps, flags. This shows that the vendor payment was held for verification, she said, flagged by Mr. Lewis on the finance committee. She zoomed into one timestamp. He delayed the payment by 4 hours, she said. Exactly the amount of time needed to push it outside the contract window. That is not an accident. That is sabotage. Against this firm and against this project. Now wait a minute, Fisher said. You cannot prove intent. I do not have to, she said. The pattern proves negligence at best and malice at worst. Either way, you are a liability. Quote. She turned back to the board. I recommend immediate removal of Mr. Lewis from this project and from his committee seats, she said. I also recommend that you approve Mr. Green's redesign and allow us to finish the job you are paying us for. The board members spoke in low voices. The chairman leaned toward the man on his right. They studied the logs, the diagrams, the video. Finally, the chairman looked up. Mr. Lewis, he said, please hand your badge to security and wait outside. The board will review your position with the firm. Fisher opened his mouth and closed it. He slid his ID card across the table. The guard stepped in from the hall and walked him out. He did not glare at me as he left. He glared at her. Fear, not anger. The chairman turned back to Luciana. Ms. Torres, he said, we will approve the redesign under the condition that an external auditor reviews the calculations. Already scheduled, she said. You will have the report by Monday. He nodded once. We appreciate your initiative, he said. Finish the job. The meeting broke. Chairs slid. Papers were gathered. Board members left in 2s and 3s talking about numbers and optics. Luciana stayed where she was, hands on the back of her chair. I stayed where I was, near the door, waiting for her to look at me. She did. You took a hell of a risk, she said when the room was empty. Exposing the blackmail. I figured you would rather fight with facts than suffocate under secrets, I said. You figured right, she said. She walked toward me. Her heels clicked on the polished floor. You lied to me first, though, she added. You said the numbers did not work. I was trying to protect you, I said. From the scandal. Do not, she said sharply, then her voice softened. Do not protect me from the world by hiding the truth. I do not need a shield, Knox. I need someone to stand next to me while I face it. Lesson learned, I said, a corner of her mouth lifted. The board approved the redesign, she said. We are safe. The building is safe. My job is safe. And the bet? I asked. She held my gaze. Meet me on the roof at 8, she said. Bring the paperwork. Quote. The roof of Sky Point was wind and steel and light. The city spread in every direction, a grid of gold and red. The concrete under my boots hummed with the life of the structure. She was already there when I stepped out of the stairwell. She wore a red dress under a dark coat. Her hair moved in the wind. The hard hat was gone. You have my resignation letter, I said, holding out a folder. She took it, opened it, scanned the lines, then ripped it in half. The pieces fluttered against her coat before the wind took them. Rejection denied, she said. Luciana, the rules, I said. You know HR, you know the ethics policy. I rewrote the rules, she said. Or rather, I asked for a new structure. She pulled another envelope from her coat. This one had the board seal. You sent your innovation proposal to the board's special committee, she said. With the Springfield load path, the new supplier controls, the cable mitigation plan. You copied legal and compliance. I saw the subject line. I swallowed. You were not on that committee. I recused myself, she said. I left the room. They voted without me. They approved it this morning. She handed me the envelope. Inside was a letter with 3 signatures, my name, a title. Interim Head of Structural Innovation, I read, reporting to the board committee, not to field operations. You do not report to me, she said. No direct line, no ethics violation. You did not give me a job, I said slowly. No, she said, you built one. I just made sure no one could tear it down because they did not like your face. The wind picked up. She stepped closer to shield the letter with her body. You won the bet, she said. My heart thudded once, heavy and sure. You saved the wall, she said. You saved the project. You refused to let him write my story. You walked into that room even after you lied, and you gave me the truth. That is what the bet was about. Her hand went into the pocket of her coat. For a second, I thought she might pull out a ring. She pulled out a bolt, a galvanized steel bolt, heavy, threaded, familiar. From Pillar 4. The day this started. "I am not a diamond ring type of woman," she said. "I like things that hold weight." She took my hand and pressed the bolt into my palm. Her fingers closed over mine, warm and firm. "I accept," she said, "but I am keeping my last name. It is on the building." "I would not have it any other way," I said. The wind blew around us. The city lights blurred at the edges of my vision. All I saw clearly was her face. I lifted my free hand and cupped her jaw. She leaned into it without hesitation. This time, there was no storm, no board, no spies. I kissed her. It was not rushed. It was not stolen. It was steady and deep and clean, like a load sliding onto the right beam. She slid one hand up to the back of my neck and held on. When we broke apart, her forehead rested lightly against mine. "Do not regret it," she whispered. "Regret?" I said, thumb brushing her cheek. "Luciana, the footing is sound. Now I am at my kitchen table. The city hums outside my window. In my palm rests that same bolt. Cold metal, solid and honest. Concrete looks simple from the outside. Steel looks straight. You do not always see the voids until they start to sing under pressure. People are the same. That week with her taught me something I did not learn at MIT. I do not want a life built on air. I want weight. I want math and choice and a woman who looks at a crack and says we can fix that if we do not lie about it. So I keep my checks. I keep my margins. I overbuild the joints. And when I reach for her hand, I do it the way I tighten a connection. Slow. Deliberate. No shortcuts. The bet started as a joke on a loud site with wet concrete and scared men. It ended on a roof with a woman in a red dress handing me a bolt and her future in the same breath.